for interception and passion for the fun runtime environment. Back when I was a junior developer, I was focused on two big things in my code, right? And that is, whoa, did that wrong. All right, readability and efficiency. Is my code readable, and is my code the best solution for the problem? But when I went beyond the algos and began building applications with real users, I realized a third crucial piece, which is security. Is my code secure? I've never been interested in cybersecurity, but oddly enough, this area of engineering really drew me in. UX is something that I've always been passionate about, and security plays a huge role in it. Especially when the UX is also the DX, like it is in the case of Docker. For those of you who don't know, Docker is the leader in container technology with over 20 million monthly users. In the same way we call all painkillers Advil and all adhesive bandages Band-Aids, Docker has started to become that for containers. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to dive into the details of container technology, but just know it fixed the problem of it works on my machine, right? It essentially brings your machine to other devs through blueprints called images that contain all the code and dependencies that are needed for your application to get up and running. Now, a couple people figured out, your thing clicks really sensitively.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. A couple people figured out that security is pretty important on Docker. So today I'm going to talk to you about how you can avoid being another article on this slide by looking at 6 ways to keep your Docker images safe and secure. So, number 1, keep them small, or lightweight, as we like to say all the time, right? This is known as minimizing your attack surface area. When an engineer says dependencies, all a hacker hears is options. The goal is to have as few things installed in the image as possible. I'll give chainguard.dev a little free promo here. They're a good resource for finding small, secure images predefined for you to use. The idea is pretty simple. If you don't need it in production, don't include it in the image. Multi-stage builds are a great way to incorporate packages needed at build time, but not by the time you get to production. Number 2, scan those images once you make them. Now, there are all sorts of resources you can take advantage of here. Docker itself has Snip, which is my personal favorite because the logo is a dog. You can also go Trippy from Aqua Security, or you can go Spectral, Anchor, JFrog, and many, many more. All of these help you find where and how severe your image's vulnerabilities are. Then you decide what you want to do about it. All right. Number 3. The user should have as few permissions as possible. Let's take a look at this code. This is a pretty basic example of a Docker file. Can anyone tell me who the user is in this scenario? You can just shout it out.
Root.
Yes, exactly. The root, as in the root user, as in the guy that gets access to just about everything. So, yeah, if you can, don't do this. We wanted to find that user, so we want to add something like, in this case, user node, which is a predefined user built into this particular image being used. The goal is to have a Linux user with the absolute minimum amount of permissions necessary. And Linux, as we all know, is as secure as it gets. You can actually control permissions pretty granularly with the admin-settings.json file. And with Docker's latest 4.29 update, you can create an image list that determines which container images can access the Docker socket. It also introduced the command list feature, which controls which Docker commands each container can execute. All right, so let's move on to number 4. Keep sensitive info out of those images. This means keeping things like credentials or secret keys out of the image itself. Try your best to inject these kinds of things at runtime. I have a couple friends in cybersecurity, and they promote the mindset of code as if you have already been hacked. You want to keep your images like my bank account in college. If you infiltrate it, congrats. You won't be able to do much. All right. Number 5, sign and verify, or as my dad likes to say, put your John Hancock on there. It's a little history joke. You can sign images cryptographically using a private key. From there, the dev on the other side can verify that the image is exactly what they were expecting. And lastly, number 6, pinning. It's considered bad practice to join, it's considered bad practice to pin to the latest version, as tempting as it may be. This can introduce complications if there was a major update that conflicts with what you've got going on. If you pin to the major.minor, but not the patch version, the patch version could still be updated, like in the case of bug fixes, but nothing that could break your code. If you want to be on the safe side, though, you can always pin the image's specific hash to guarantee you'll always be referring to the same image every time, which is that bottom one right there. So, to close, when it comes to creating images, keep them small, scan them, define a weak user, keep sensitive info out, sign them, and pin correctly. All in all, container security is a lot more in-depth than this handful of high-level concepts, but I wanted to shed light on some boxes that many can forget to check. Most of my information came from Docker's official documentation, and Sid Palace from DevOps Directive on YouTube. If anyone has any questions, I am happy to chat, so come find me. And thank you all so much for coming out, and thank you to Cloudflare for sponsoring the event. I love meeting new people and hearing about your workflows and ideas, so feel free to come up, say hi, let's get connected on LinkedIn, grab a coffee. Otherwise, happy coding, guys.